Portals, how to better begin everything. How do you begin something? We all know beginnings are important, but why? And for that matter, what even is a beginning? Is it just the start of something, or is it something more than that? The answer to these and many other questions lie in today's original and powerful idea. It's all about better beginning everything. Welcome to Original and Powerful Ideas. My name is Troy Hedu Campbell, and I use a scientific mind, artistic heart approach to capture original and powerful ideas so you can apply them in your own pursuits. I've spent my life understanding the science and theory behind how humans think and behave and applying those ideas artistically and practically as an applied Duke behavioral science PhD, former Disney Imagineer, Oregon professor, and consultant for Nike, Netflix, and many more. Across this podcast, we'll be exploring together original and powerful ideas captured in many different forms that are meant to be new and relevant to you, whether you are a world-class innovator, a scrappy upstart, or just a curious person with some headphones on. Today's episode is about the concept of a portal. As you may know by now, I love capturing a big, powerful idea in the familiar form of a book. But instead of writing 300 repetitive-ish pages, I present them here as book summaries. These book summaries have everything that great books should have: a bold thesis, a fun title, a few cool anecdotes, lots of inspiration from science and art, and most importantly, an original and powerful idea that is deeply defined and broadly applied so you can impactfully put it into action in your own pursuits. This book is built on the realization that all beginnings are really good transitions. Portals are how you transition. Portals are how you bring yourself and others into the moment. It investigates why portals are so powerful, how most all your favorite experiences already use them, and how, because we don't have a full understanding of the portal, even the best designers, storytellers, and everyone sometimes struggles with beginnings. Portals, how to better begin everything. Inspiration. When you enter Disneyland, you're not immediately in the main experience. For instance, you can't even see the iconic castle. Instead, you enter into this temporary transition space. In front of you, you can see a large floral Mickey, and at the top of it, the railroad, and not much else. But then, you walk through a very minimally decorated tunnel that goes under that railroad and features the famous metal plaque that reads, "Here you leave today and enter the world of yesterday, tomorrow, and fantasy." If you think about how the most effective, powerful, and enjoyable experiences in general begin, most of them often begin something like this. Great sporting events like those in the NBA begin with multiple rituals that get players and audiences alike into a game time mode before the game begins. Great workplace innovation days, like those held internally with Walt Disney Imagineers, begins with creative warm-ups that get people ready to be creative before they actually begin the creative work. And on great podcasts, like your old and new favorites, the narrator begins with a teasing transitional introduction with a few intriguing questions and relatable examples to get you in the right mindset as you enter into the narrative of that episode's big idea. The idea. A portal is a model for beginning any experience better. It is a special type of transition that can create positive anticipation of the event to come, facilitate the correct mindset shift, and complete the narrative metaphor of going somewhere new or special. A portal can come in many forms, such as a rabbit hole to a fictional world, a long entryway to a theme park ride, or a precise workshop warm-up. If it's a good portal, when a person goes through it, they will feel properly transitioned and fully ready for whatever is about to happen. The applications. First, we'll begin with 3 short examples. Then we'll dive into more of the specifics and techniques of the portal. Apply video games. Video games like classic Fortnite are not bound by physical laws. For instance, in the classic version of Fortnite, players could have started right in the middle of the battle on the island. But the players didn't. Instead, they began by going through an iconic portal. Players began the game by slowly skydiving toward the cartoony Battle Royale island. This skydive portal created anticipation, as for those many, many seconds in the air, players thought, "We might win this time." It also got players into a collective mindset shift, as they made the collective decision of where to land on the island and how aggressively they would play in that round. And finally, as it was something that was far away, it completed the narrative metaphor of going somewhere special. Apply comedy. Many veteran comedians have new comedy specials that are often different in tone and subject matter than their previous specials. To portal people into the new, they often have a very specific opening joke. For instance, Michelle Wolf's "You Don't Know Me" otter joke, or John Mulaney's dark grandparent joke. After John Mulaney did his dark grandparent joke, he even took the time to literally explain why he had just told the darker tone joke, and how that tone would be combined with the narrative arc of what he was about to deliver in the main part of his Baby J special. Apply the workplace. Nike applies portal-like experiences, not just for their stores and sponsored sporting events, but also in the workplace. To begin big innovation or cultural days, where hundreds meet in large rooms on the Oregon campus, Nike turns off the lights and shows custom-created videos featuring a celebrity like Coach K introducing the themes of the day. Then the lights come on and the portals continue, as Nike employees do a warm-up activity, such as a yes and circle or a personal storytelling experience, to get the employees further into the right mindset before the main part of the experience actually occurs. Those examples can help inspire us, but to really apply the portal, it's important to understand 3 of its possible powers in isolation. To illustrate each, we'll define each power, apply it to a well-done example at the Disneyland park, and then apply it to more common situations in work, life, and other designs. The why. Narrative metaphor. Portal ins and portal outs can complete the way humans think in categorization and narrative metaphor. That which is special is usually far away, and usually takes some time and distance to get to. It's usually on the other side of something, such as a wall, an archway, or gate, and often requires a long walk through a forest, a tunnel, a rabbit hole, or a trip on a rocket ship to get to. After the Disneyland tunnel entrance, one makes a decision of which land to enter, and each of these lands themselves begin with well-constructed narrative metaphors that communicate that one is going somewhere special. The Star Wars Galaxy Edge land begins with a tunnel and then has a long walk-in that has minimal decorations, forest elements, and music before fully transitioning guests into the parts with more starships and characters and the main part of the land. This, of course, makes metaphorical sense. If you are supposed to be entering an experience that took place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, then it should take some time and distance to get to. Portals exist in multiple modalities to express the narrative metaphor. For instance, they exist physically, as in gardens where people will create an entry archway, or at conferences where designers will decorate entrances to exhibits. And they exist physically and temporally in academia, when teachers, sometimes in the middle of the day of class, will have students get up and walk sometimes quite a long distance to a different room or outside space to communicate that something new, special, and out of the norm is happening. Though there may or may not be a lot of actual distance, often guests, customers, employees, and individuals can all be made to feel more distance between one thing and the next thing. The why. Mindset shift. Humans usually need time to transition and warm up. The mind is simply not an electric roadster that can go from 0 to 100 in less than 2 seconds. This is especially true because the mind doesn't have a single 100 mile per hour mindset. It has many different mindsets it can get into. Portals give the time and direction for this correct mindset shift. Apply. Disney. Once guests have entered into one of the specific lands, they often will go on the rides. And here they will enter possibly Disney's most iconic portals, the oh-so-famous ride queues. As you walk into the rides, the queues serve as portals, as they slowly introduce you to the ride's theme. Most importantly, each line is very different because it is specifically preparing you for a specific experience. Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters is a space adventure where you interactively engage in a cartoony battle by shooting a laser gun that is attached to your ride car. The line portal to this ride gets you ready for that experience. With silly, fun colors, some chaos, and an animatronic Buzz Lightyear directly talking to you and giving you a pep talk. It's getting you ready for battle, for active participation. In contrast, for the Haunted Mansion, which is a spooky, kooky haunted mansion ride where you go through a mansion largely passively observing ghosts and otherworldly creatures doing fun and scary things, the portal is, of course, different. In the Haunted Mansion line, you walk through a graveyard and hallways that have details for you to get curious about and observe. Then when the ride's host, your ghost host, comes in, it encourages you to literally turn your head and look around at different characters in a 360 experience in the stretching room. This is a preview of how you are to experience the ride you're about to get on. As Bruce Vaughn, chief creative at Walt Disney Imagineering, explains, without that transition, without stepping through a portal, you lose that opportunity to reset the state of mind of guests. People need to not just have breaks between rides. They need to have portals that reset their mind for the different experiences. In this way, a day at Disneyland is not unlike a long day at work, in which you need to change between experiences. Beyond Disney, in the workplace. Great workplaces often hire psychologists and experiential experts, or use internal experts to create collections of warm-ups for different workplace experiences. What's essential to note here is just because a person has familiarity with a certain behavior, or has a skill, or has a memory of something, doesn't mean that is activated in their brain. And further, activating the wrong mindset can make people worse. For instance, activating bold, divergent creativity with a highly energetic yes and activity can make things worse if what is needed is difficult, detailed decision making. The why, positive anticipation. People often enjoy the anticipation of a positive event as much or even more than the event itself, such that anticipation is both a way to build to a better experience and is a positive experience in and of itself. Apply. One last time returning to Disneyland. When guests get on the rides, the portals do not end. In the classic Snow White's Scary Adventure, the ride began with a very minimalistic, slow, dark transition room into the forest of the ride, with just the sound of a few scary birds. And Space Mountain, the thrilling Space Mountain, doesn't begin with immediately flying through space, but instead begins anticipation with the launch tunnel before the most thrilling parts of the ride. Apply beyond the Disney parks. Building anticipation can come in many ways, but one of the easiest and most effective ways entertainers, educators, restaurants, and individuals create anticipation is by giving people a preview or taste of the climax. For instance, many YouTubers will often start a longer video by showing the audience the end. They'll show them some brief moments of the climactic stunt, the explosion, or the conclusion of the game. Educators will also often begin a day of class previewing some awesome end with a prop, slide, or anecdote that hints at the competition or scientific explosion or competition about a scientific explosion that will end the class. While of course there is nuance around showing a climax, delaying a climax, spoiling a climax, and over-revving on anticipation, in general, anticipation is a valuable thing itself that should be part of a consideration in any experience or portal design. A tip, a trick, a theme, and one more thing. Number 1, a tip. Make sure that your audience knows they are in a portal. If portals are about transitioning your audience usually needs to know what they are transitioning toward, or at least that they are in a transition. Number 2, a trick. Worst thing first. Sometimes an audience is simply scared and afraid of something that is coming up. This is often the case in a workshop that's about inclusion, bias, or creativity. In this case, it's often best to start with the worst thing first. This can prevent the debilitating feeling that something bad or worse is coming up. A theme. When people learn about the portal, they often jump to try to do the most dramatic, creative, and powerful versions. Whether it is a super slick, creative story to kick off a presentation, or a wacky warm-up for some meeting. What's important to remember is that the principal purpose of a portal is to portal people in, to get them ready for the main experience. You don't need to start with a bang. You don't need to start so amazingly. You just need to start in a way where people are more ready for what is going to come up. Most meetings and presentations can often be well portaled into by just simply explaining what's going to be in that presentation or meeting. And finally, one more thing. Portal outs. This episode so far has been all about better beginning things with a portal in, but you can also end things better with a portal out. Portal outs are defined here as transitional experiences that occur after the climax of an event. Portal outs include the slow song at the end of a concert, the cool down after a workout, the reflective scenes at the end of a story, the summary conversation at the end of a meeting, the wave goodbye room in a Disney ride, and a personal, reflective, thoughtful ending to a podcast. Portal outs can complete the narrative metaphor that which is special is far away and takes time to get to and return from. It can work to distinguish mindsets between experiences, but most distinctly, the portal out has the power to create reflection on what has happened, which can enhance the feeling that that thing is more meaningful, while further encoding that experience in one's memory. Disney rides even push this further by having people, once they leave a ride, look at a photo of themselves on the ride they just went on at the most climactic moment, giving them an almost instant nostalgia experience, and putting them into what a psychologist would call a positive high construal, where they focus on the most positive aspect of what they just did. In comparison, portal ins create anticipation. Portal outs create reflection. Conclusion. I love portals. I love researching them, designing them, and talking about them. And of all the lessons I learned through my time at and later involvement with Walt Disney Imagineering, the metaphor of a portal was simply one of my favorites. From that first lesson, I started seeing them everywhere, but also how they were missing or misused in so many places. Because of that, I did experiments with Walt Disney Imagineering on missing portals in Disney experiences. I explored the idea academically at Duke University and the University of Oregon, and then moved to create this more complete scientific mind, artistic heart definition and practical approach that has been useful to experts like Walt Disney Imagineers, Netflix designers, and Nike Advanced Innovation Collective leaders. With my adapted approach to this idea, I hope to bring clarity and sophistication to the power of a portal in order to make it even more useful to the world's best designers and more broadly, just useful to anyone who wants to better begin anything. You can learn more about this idea as well as many other original and powerful ideas at HaidukeHouse.com. Haiduke is my middle name and is spelled Hiduke. There you will also find ideas captured in more artistic and playful forms, such as lyrics, fiction, and idea pitches, as well as find ways to contact me and this podcast. If you want something to do immediately, send me one of your favorite portals. Send me a portal from something that you love. Maybe you have a favorite musical artist, and the portal is how they slowly begin their concerts. Or maybe you have a favorite comedy TV show, and the portal is how they abruptly begin with a magnificent 45-second cold open. The standard for success of these episodes is that after them, you can look out into the world and better understand why it works, including why the things you love the most and have even made yourself work. And number 2, tell everyone about the idea of a portal. You could share them this episode, that would be cool, but just as important, if not more important, tell them about it yourself by defining it for them and then applying it through your own favorite portal example, such that you will become the teacher to others by combining your own knowledge and passion with the definitions and applications on this show. All right, thank you for being here at the beginning of what is going to probably be one of the more longer episodes of Original and Powerful Ideas. I really appreciate all your curious minds. Portal out, Troy.